everyone, this is Karen.
Welcome back, my friends. This is Shane.
Today we're looking at part 2 of kitchen tips.
And the science behind them.
And the vocabulary words are spice.
Spice.
Melissa grows a number of spices in her garden.
Achieve.
Achieve.
After struggling for years, Ronald achieved success.
Pasta.
Pasta.
James cooked the pasta until it was tender.
Dislike.
Dislike.
Ron dislikes having to wake up early on weekends.
Apron.
Apron.
The cook tied the apron around his waist and got to work. So we're still talking about some helpful kitchen tips, right?
If you know a little bit of science, in the kitchen your food can taste and smell better.
That's right. Okay, well, I assume that you probably eat a lot of pasta.
I do eat a lot of pasta.
How do you usually cook your pasta, and what would be a good tip?
Okay, well, the tip that they mention here, and I do this, is make sure that your water is boiling and it's a rolling boil. So when the pasta is in there, it's going to roll around and it's going to cook evenly. But here's a tip that's not in there.
Okay.
A lot of people don't put enough water in their pot when they're cooking pasta. It's very important. Put more water. When you think it's already enough, put more.
Because the noodle or the pasta would have enough room to roll around.
Yes.
Ah, that's pretty good.
And before I mentioned smell, right? Well, like when you're cooking fish, a lot of people don't like the smell.
Like the fishy smell, right?
Exactly.
I know what you can use. Can you use like onion, ginger, and what else is there?
Cinnamon.
Cinnamon. Oh, I've heard of green tea before.
Right. And what that helps to do is get rid of the fishy smell. So if you enjoy the taste of fish, but sometimes you get that smell, because of course taste is connected to smell,
That's right.
So if it smells like fish, you might feel, ugh, I don't like it. But take away that smell and you will love fish.
So just remember these special ingredients you can add.
And there's even more. Keep reading.
And learn some more kitchen tips. Enjoy.
Thanks.
Kitchen tips and the science behind them.
Richer spices. To achieve the most flavor from ground spices, add them to the hot oil in your pan at the beginning of the cooking process. Cooking spices in fat rather than water is called blooming the spices and helps to deepen their flavor.
Today's lesson is called Kitchen Tips and the Science Behind Them. Part 2. Hello everyone, my name is Jeff.
And I'm Mike. And yes, we're looking at how we can use science in the kitchen to make our food more delicious, to help us cook faster, to give us all sorts of advantages when we're playing the chef. Yesterday we learned about moist vegetables, about how to put salt in your coffee to make it less bitter, how to make your eggs easier to peel after you've hard-boiled them. All good, useful tips. Today, though, we're moving on with more great kitchen tips, and this is all true because of science.
Hey, kitchen tips and the science that makes them work.
Great.
Anyways, next we're talking about spices. Let's figure out how science can help us achieve, more on that later, richer spices. By the way, here we've got the word spice to talk about. It's a noun. A spice is usually something that we add to food to make that food taste better, like pepper, maybe salt. There you go. Those are all examples of spices, but then sometimes you also have plant matter that you add to food to make it taste better. Maybe rosemary, thyme, stuff like that. Maybe sometimes spices and herbs kind of overlap, but one way or another. Something like pepper that you add to the top of your food there to make it taste better, that's a spice. For example, Melissa grows a number of spices in her garden.
Oh. So how do we get richer? When we say, of course, richer here, we don't mean like money, like this guy is richer
fuller
than that guy. More flavorful, right? Yeah. More delicious spices. How do we do that? Well, to achieve the most flavor, or to make your spices richer, to achieve the most flavor from ground spices, add them to the hot oil in your pan at the beginning of the cooking process. That's an interesting idea. Kind of makes sense when you think about it. This is, of course, when you take the spices, which are often kind of seeds or hard, dried up bits of plant, and you grind them, right? That's why we use that past tense ground. They've kind of been crushed basically into a powder, or you can often buy them in a powder in a bottle. But before you put them on your food, add them to the hot oil in your pan as you begin cooking, at the beginning of the cooking process. This will help you to achieve the richest or most flavorful, most delicious spices. When we achieve something, we reach a goal. We are successful in doing something. You're saying to yourself, well, I used some spices, but the flavor's not so good. I want to make them tastier and more flavorful. How do I do that? How do I reach that goal? How do I achieve that target? So how do you get to where you're going, or how do you be successful? For example, after struggling for years, Ronald achieved success. He was aiming to open his own business. He had a few failures, but finally he did it. He opened a business. It was successful. He reached his goal.
He got there.
There you go.
He wanted to do that. He struggled for a while, but he got there. And you aspiring chefs out there, if you want rich flavor in your foods, okay, listen to us right now. Go ahead and add those spices there at the beginning of the cooking process.
Frying pan, a little bit of oil, throw in your spices.
This is how you get full flavors out. That's how you get that full flavor out of your spices. Now, cooking spices in fat,
oil,
rather than water, is called blooming the spices, and this helps to deepen their flavor. There you go. Bloom those spices, get that deep flavor, achieve that deep, rich flavor. All right, folks, with that, it's now time for us to take a break, but don't go away. We'll be right back after this.
Hello， 大家好，我是 Hanny。我们在第一天的课文有学到一些小 pebble， 像是煮洋葱可以加小苏打让它更快熟，喝咖啡可以加盐巴让它比较不苦等等。那我们今天要介绍更多诀窍哦。第一个就是如何让你的香料更浓郁。好，单字 spice 它就表示香料或是调味品。那 Jeff 老师刚刚有提到 herb 这个字 H-E-R-B herb 它可以用来表达调味用的那种香草，或是可以用来表达药草。那这时候老师就提到一些香草，像是 rosemary 是迷迭香， thyme 是百里香。那么香料是可以让菜肴更有风味的。Mike 老师刚刚用到 flavorful 这个字 F-L-A-V-O-R-F-U-L flavorful 可以形容是有风味的。课文接着写到说，要从磨碎的香料当中获得最多风味，应该一开始就把它们加入锅子里面的热油里面来爆香，用油而不是水来烹调这个香料，可以有助于让它的风味变得浓厚。好，文中是用到 blooming 来表达爆香，那么 bloom 这个动词在这边就表示说，让这个风味啊或者香气等等，让它变得更明显、更充分的表现出来。好，再来看单字 achieve 它表示获得、完成。好，我们刚刚不是说用油而不是水，这时候课文它用 rather than 来表达而不是、而非的意思。那我们来学它的词性用法。第一个呢，我们可以用 rather than 来当连接词，这时候要连接词性相同的字词。例如 She wants to be an actress rather than a lawyer 她想成为一位演员而非律师。第二个呢是拿 rather than 来当介系词，那这时候后面要接名词或动名词，这时候它就相当于 instead of。例如 Rather than taking a taxi, they walked home 他们走回家而不是搭计程车。好，接着回到课文中。
Kitchen tips and the science behind them.
Better pasta. For the best pasta, the water should be kept at a rolling boil while cooking. The movement of the boiling water keeps the pasta pieces from sticking together. If the water temperature drops too much when you add the pasta, try using more water next time.
Okay, next, let's talk about getting better pasta. Okay, some of you might think, pasta, no big deal. You can make better pasta. It's all about the water. But before we get to that, let's talk about pasta. Basically here we're talking about noodles. But pasta, it usually refers to Italian. Alright, so basically noodles from Italy, like spaghetti, penne pasta, stuff like that. Okay? Basically noodles from Italy. Pasta. It comes in all shapes and sizes. But that's beside the point. Let's figure out how to cook this pasta better. We'll do so right after we look at an example sentence for the word pasta. James cooked the pasta until it was tender. Hopefully it was only al dente tender. Anyways, better pasta. For the best pasta, the water should be kept at a rolling boil while cooking. Yes, that water should be moving, rolling and rolling and rolling.
Okay.
Hopefully I've properly emphasized this point.
I can almost feel the heat from that rolling boil.
And you gotta cook it in a big pot with lots of water.
That's and lots of salt too.
Lots of salt.
Yeah.
Rolling boil. Not too much salt.
No.
Just make it taste like salt water, like
That's
from
right.
the ocean. Yeah.
But that's still quite a lot of
Okay,
salt.
I'm
But
gonna stop rolling.
yes, thank you for the rolling boil. So not little bubbles. We're not doing just a few little bubbles. We have a lot of rolling. There you go. Why are we doing this? The movement. Show us the movement again, please. Thank you. The movement of the boiling water keeps the pasta pieces from sticking together. Yeah, a lot of people think, oh, you got to keep stirring the pasta. No, once you put it in, stir it maybe once or twice right at the beginning, and then if you have that you don't need to stir it anymore because the rolling boil will keep the pasta pieces or the noodles from sticking together. And it says if the water temperature drops too much when you add the pasta, try using more water next time. Yeah, it's good to have a good amount of water when you throw the pasta in, because if you are cooking a lot of pasta, it will actually cool the water down and you'll lose that rolling. There we're gonna roll and roll our way to a break, and then we'll be back with more food science tips.
同学们喜欢吃意大利面吗？如果你们家偶尔会煮意大利面，那这个诀窍要学起来哦。你想要有最好吃的意大利面，就是在料理的时候，这个水应该是要维持沸腾的。沸腾的水就会让面条不会粘在一起。那这边有一个单字 pasta。Pasta 就是面食，那它是意大利面的总称，是不可数名词。其实意大利面有很多种，那 pasta 是总称嘛。那我们来学一下，像我们熟悉的那种直面条，很像我们油面的那一种，叫做 spaghetti。那Jeff老师还提到 penne，P-E-N-N-E penne， 则是指笔管面。好，这回到课文中。
Kitchen tips and the science behind them.
Sweeter smells. If you enjoy preparing fish but dislike the odor that lingers after cooking, add an ingredient like green tea, onion, cinnamon, or ginger. Any of these additions will prevent some of the fatty acids in the fish from coming into contact with the air and creating a fishy smell. You don't have to trade in your apron for a lab coat to get better results in the kitchen. Whether you're a seasoned master or a new hand at cooking, a dash of science is all you need to take your cooking to the next level.
Okay, next we're going to talk about sweeter snails. So when you're cooking snails and you want them to be sweeter.
Not snails, smells. Sweeter smells.
How do you cook a smell?
You make the smell smell sweeter. Yeah, that's a good point. We're talking about something you smell and something you taste. But let's just read the article. Okay. Let's just keep with the article and see what it says. So sweeter smells, not snails, smells. If you enjoy preparing fish but dislike the odor that lingers after cooking, add an ingredient like green tea, onion, cinnamon, or ginger. Okay.
Cardamom.
Not cardamom, nor turmeric. No, we're talking about the smell of something. And when we say something has a sweet smell, we're just kind of saying it has a nice smell. If you use perfumes, or if your house smells a little bit because you have dogs or cats, you might use a spray, and it just smells nicer, like lemons or flowers or something. It's a sweeter smell. It's not kind of a stinky, bad chocho smell. That's basically what we're saying. And yeah, when you cook fish, it can have kind of a fishy smell, and it might kind of hang around your kitchen or your home for a few hours after you cook. That's what we're trying to get rid of, because some people dislike the odor or the smell, often a bad smell. We call that an odor. People dislike that odor. When we dislike something, we don't like it. All right, that's all. I could like it, but I don't like it. I'm not saying I hate it and it's the worst thing in the world. No, I'm just saying, yeah, no, I don't really like that. I mean, you could hate it, but hate's a little bit stronger. Yes. Dislike is just like, yeah, no thanks. I'm not a fan. I don't like that. For example, Ron dislikes having to wake up early on weekends. If he has to, he will, but he would rather not.
Anyways, let's go ahead and move on.
Yes.
Any of these additions will prevent some of the fatty acids in the fish from coming into contact with the air and creating a fishy smell.
Oh.
So maybe you are cooking snails, add some of these things like onion or whatever so that stink doesn't get loose in your kitchen.
The odor,
You won't have an odor or a stink or a bad fragrance in the air there in your kitchen.
Good tip.
Anyways, you don't have to trade in your apron for a lab coat to get better results in the kitchen. Yes, remember scientists, they work in a lab or a laboratory and they'll have that white lab coat on, and apparently you do not have to become a scientist to become a better cook. But go ahead and follow these tips and you probably will get better results in the kitchen. Now, here, when we're talking about an apron, we're talking about something like a smock for a cook. Maybe it's art day at school. You might put on a garment to cover your clothes so you don't get paint and stuff like that on your good clothes, okay? An apron is a lot like that. It's basically a garment that you wear over your clothes so that you don't get your clothes dirty. And you wear it in the kitchen. For example, the cook tied the apron around his waist and got to work. There you go. So, whether you're a seasoned master,
seasoned salt, right? Food, yeah, but also experienced, seasoned,
seasoned master, or a new hand at cooking, a dash of science,
like throwing in a few spices, a dash of this,
is all you need.
A little bit.
Take your cooking to the next level.
Whether you're an expert chef or a new chef, a little bit of science helps in the kitchen. So what do you think, apart from those silly word jokes from that last sentence? What do you think? Do you know any other kitchen tips? And what is the science behind them?
Gosh, Mike, I'm not much of a cook myself, but I've heard that if you apply a coat of butter to the outside of a steak before you cook it, and then cook it on high heat, that you'll form a crust on the outside of that steak when you cook it, and that traps in the moisture. So you can have moister veggies and also some moister steak if you follow that tip.
I think that's a good tip. In the same way, it creates a barrier.
It creates the barrier.
It keeps the moisture inside your steak. So there you go. That's a good little tip. I also heard that if you're cutting garlic, you can put some lemon on your hands, and then they won't smell like garlic.
I like garlic.
Afterwards. Well, I know some people, but you get it in your fingers. And anyway, so there you go. Some science tips. You can find your own. There's many on the internet or in a good cookbook. But enjoy yourself in the kitchen. And hey, use a bit of science because it will only make your results a bit better. We enjoyed spending some time with you guys, and we'll see you back here very soon. Until then,
bye-bye.
Happy cooking.
最后一个要分享的诀窍是如何去鱼腥味。如果你不喜欢鱼腥味，可以在料理鱼的时候添加一种食材，像是绿茶、洋葱、肉桂或是姜，它们可以防止鱼里面的一些脂肪酸接触到空气而产生鱼腥味。好，我们来看单字 dislike。dislike 表示不喜欢。那么 fishy 就是形容有鱼腥味的。好，那如果你想要表达臭味，可以用到 stink 这个字 ，stink stink 表示臭味。那在讲到添加食材的时候，老师们有提到 cardamom 表示小豆蔻，那么 turmeric 表示姜黄。课文最后写到说，你不需要把围裙换成实验衣，也可以在厨房里面得到更好的结果。那不管你是经验丰富的大师，或是料理新手，只需要一些科学，就能把你的厨艺带到更高的境界哦。好，单字 apron 它就表示围裙。这样老师在解释单字时用到 smock 这个字 ，smock smock 可以表达工作的罩衫，还有用到 garment 这个字 garment garment 表示衣服，那它是比较正式的用字。我们最后来看3个重点。第一个是 whether 什么什么 or 什么什么，在这边它引导让步副词子句去表达无论是什么什么还是什么什么。那它的用法是 whether A or B 逗号主词加动词，或是也可以把这个部分摆到后面变成主词加动词 whether A or B。例如 whether you are an amateur or a pro, you're welcome to join us。无论你是业余人士或是专业人士，都欢迎你加入。第二个重点 A new hand 在这边是指新手，那它后面可以接 at 加名词或动名词。举例来说 Ed is a new hand at songwriting。 Ed 在写歌这方面他是个新手。第3个重点 Take something to the next level 表示说让什么什么提升到新的层次、新的境界。比如This esports monitor will take your gaming experience to the next level。 这款电竞萤幕将会使你的游戏体验提升到更高境界。好，以上是这些讲解，同学们别走开，马上回来哦。
Hi there. Today we're going to talk about a very sad issue in the Amazon forest. Have you heard about the tragic fires there? Those fires have killed many plants and wild animals. But that's not all. They have also destroyed the homes of many indigenous people. What causes those fires? Sometimes they happen naturally, when the weather is extremely hot and dry. More often, they're caused by humans. People burn the forest to clear land. International companies use the land to grow soybeans and raise cattle for beef. The Amazon's indigenous tribes can't protect the land on their own, so it's up to everyone in the world to help protect the Amazon. By protecting the rainforest, we can also make sure the future of its people safer. Here is more information. Hunt. Ken and Paul like to hunt on weekends. Culture. Angela is interested in Japanese language and culture. Aware. I wasn't aware that Jack was sick. Rainforest. The largest rainforest on Earth is the Amazon rainforest. Tribe. This tribe has many unique traditions. Join. Do you want to join us for dinner? Vulnerable. The young children are vulnerable to the cold. Afraid. Larry was afraid that he would be late for school. Reason. I would like to know the reason why you didn't call me yesterday. Contact. You can contact me at this phone number. Isn't it really sad to learn that the Amazon forest is suffering because of humans? I think we should all chip in and try to protect the forest together. Well, I hope you enjoyed learning about it. See you next time.
See you next time.